already exceeded my level of technical proficiency.
All right. A tab. We are sharing the RAC meeting. Okay. Okay, well, again, we don't have a quorum today, but I think we'll record it and move forward with our meeting, and then we'll still post this on the open meeting website, so we're good to go. So this is our rec meeting for February 2022. First, we have 3 agenda items. First is sort of the budget priorities for this upcoming year. We are in the middle of the budget process. We have submitted our base budgets for the year, and we are in the process of looking at our expansion requests. Mariah Shirley is our facility manager here at the fitness center. We had 3 main goals for a lot of our budget things: aligning and simplifying our fees, creating and demonstrating the value for residents for the services that we offer, and then looking wherever we could for business practices that we could streamline that would reduce our staff costs. So Mariah, if I can put you on the spot a little bit, we've done a couple of things so far, and we've suggested or proposed a couple more. Can you tell us a little bit about those and what we're doing with specifics to the Sarah outdoor pool and the business passes here at the facility?
So one thing that we've already moved on is the business pass structure. Previously, it was really admin heavy on both the businesses and the rec department. It was kind of a burden to get people signed up. There was a limited window of you're supposed to pull all of your employees that have interest and get them to say that they have interest. And then it takes a week or 2 to get them signed up. And then if they miss that window, it became sort of like a denier to the membership of you missed the window, you don't get a membership in this format. It was a burden to a variety of people. And so we've kind of restructured the way that they go about it, where now businesses can contact us and say they have interest. And we've alleviated the burden by allowing our front desk staff and online sales to conduct those business pass sales. So should somebody have interest in the membership, it is a quick, we want to get set up with recreation. Let's build a partnership, determine what your level of discount is, depending on how many employees you'll be bringing to the facility. And that kind of determines how high your level of discount is. And then it takes like 5 to 10 minutes for Marissa to set it up as our representative from Orem, and 5 to 10 minutes on their end to say, we have interest, can we do it? And then from then on, all of their employees have access throughout the entirety of the year to a discount with ease of use by just being able to talk to our front desk staff to sign up. So that one we've already kind of changed because we felt that was, with a lot of business pass renewals coming up, we wanted to make it easier for everybody as soon as possible.
So now we turn it into a year-round opportunity.
Whenever.
And they can do it themselves, no staff costs included, just automated. Yep.
Yep. And so not only have we seen businesses are pretty happy with it, where they don't have to participate in this back and forth for a week and try and get everybody signed up and then have one person miss. It just seems to be easy, and the persons that are still benefiting, the employees themselves still see the benefit. They're still involved and they still get to participate should they want to.
So we've seen an uptick in interest.
We've had a few businesses reach out already, and it's really fast. We've changed.
Onboarding new businesses is way quicker.
New businesses, I think we're at between 15 and 19 new businesses.
And this is within like 2 months or something like that. We changed it in December. Mm-hmm. And so we're anticipating that as all of the old businesses that were part of it, we will probably bring them on board as well, because it'll just be a quick process to transition them and continue to reach out to new businesses. Because also it is now allowing us to spend some of our admin time, should we want, in reaching out to businesses and fostering those partnerships instead of waiting for businesses to contact us and spending the time dealing with the businesses instead of allowing for just the convenience for everybody. So we've already kind of moved on that one. That one's happening and active. And then the second one is the Sarah Poole memberships. That is a common resident ask for the Sarah Poole to be part of their membership here. And so instead of moving towards a punch pass format where they have to buy their usage per time at the Sarah Poole, we're trying to move to a membership add-on where if you're a current member, you, for a family of 6 people, can add the Sarah Poole access to your membership at $100 for the summer approximately. So it would be cheaper per day per person than the punch passes. It'd be 10%
the cost.
Yeah.
If you're a frequent goer of the pool, you're going to be spending 20 cents a day to go there, as opposed to the punch passes cost you about $4 per visit.
Wow.
So if you go a lot, it's way cheaper, way better for families that just want to go to the pool a few times a week.
I also think that it helps with those that are going to be using the pool more frequently or for smaller chunks of time, because I know that in my own family, they cherish these moments at the pool, and so they plan a whole day around it, where if it's easy for you to go, it's a quick check-in process and you're not spending $4 per person per time. You can go for an hour on Tuesday and an hour on Wednesday, and it will kind of alleviate the burden of big people, big groups on the same day, large chunks of time. And then hopefully, I think we've coordinated about that it would take about 300 families to decide to jump onto this membership add-on to make the same amount of revenue. So again, it is revenue neutral, where we feel like we can convince, 300 families. It feels like a positive add to their membership. It's going to be easier for them. They don't have to bring their credit cards with them to pay to get to the Sarah Pool. They just scan their membership card over there. So it will seem convenient. It will be convenient for our staff members and for them. And again, it kind of takes away some admin hours. We're reducing our staff costs. Instead of them needing to check in and make a purchase every time they go over there, it's a simple scan. It reduces the staffing cost. It seems to be a benefit to the members, the team, and the revenue, honestly. So we're excited about it potentially.
So thank you, Mariah. Again, most of our budget, we have 7 front and back pages of fees that we submit to the council every year. Just a lot of them, just different programs, different classes. We've gotten that down to about 4 because where we could, we simplified it and unified it, so it just makes more sense. We don't need to charge $625 per class for gymnastics and then $650 for dance. They could probably both just be $650. So there were very, very few things that saw like an actual price increase, more of structural changes to better align it. There were a couple of pavilion rentals on our largest pavilions, like our event pavilions, that did go up a couple $100. Is that right? Marissa is very involved in our rentals, but the Boweries, where they do, like, again, we're talking events, wedding receptions, went up from like $600 to $750. So a little bit bigger of a jump, 15-20%, but they were high demand on staff, and emptying trash cans and having signage out. And so we felt it was an appropriate thing there. Overall, our revenues, specifically here at the fitness center, will be up about $500,000 at the fitness center over our direct costs compared to this current budget year. The memberships, business passes, students, regular families, we're looking to be about $500,000 up. The day passes are down. And so we took those numbers down. More people are buying memberships, and that's a good problem. They're choosing not to come once, they're choosing to buy a membership. So even though the day passes are down, it's the best problem to have. And so we're excited about that. Our class participation is up. We now have over 22,000 members. That means they see the gymnastics, they see the swim lesson, they're here with one kid, they may as well sign the other one up. Again, across all fronts on the fitness center revenue, it is green means go. We are in the black. We are very confident with the rental numbers, and we look forward to self-sustaining business practices for years to come. We've talked about the system changes. We mentioned the Sarah. We mentioned the subscription. We're doing the same thing with Child Watch. Currently, it's a punch pass. You have to pay every single time you come. Parents need to be empowered to buy a membership and have access to it. That's how they work. That's the better deal for them. And it keeps us at volume more often. So it's easier for us to staff. So go ahead.
The Child Watch, is that included in the membership, or is that an add-on?
That's an add-on for those that need it. Yeah. Because it's only for kids 6 months to 8 years old. So it's a pretty specific population that would choose to buy it.
Right.
And then we'll talk more at this length later, but one of the system changes is looking at field rentals per hour instead of different agreements that we have. So some of the expansion requests, which is where we're adding significant costs and revenue services, is the way that we are funding some sports field maintenance. We're looking at our in-house or not in-house swim team. We're looking at a position that would focus on our membership and outreach specialists. A lot of what Mariah talked about today with reaching out to these businesses and managing those relationships with a focus on revenue and creating revenue lines through corporate sports team, corporate business passes, everything like that. And then we are looking at, in partnership with finance, we're establishing a depreciation or capital account. And so we don't want to just fund the current operation of this facility, but the future operation. Now, we're probably not going to be able to save enough to cover the depreciation of the physical building itself, but the depreciation of the assets within the building, every piece of fitness equipment, every major system, we feel that we can budget. So, and again, it's hard to say that we can guarantee it for the next 50 years, but we're going to be putting money aside to fund that. So we don't have to go back to the council in 3 years or 5 years or 10 years and say, hey, we need all new fitness equipment. Ideally, we'll be able to say, hey, we needed all new fitness equipment. So we went to our depreciation account and purchased this. So not just current success, but future success through budgeting for our depreciation capital account. Any questions on budget? You know the drill. You know the drill. It's a lot of meetings, but it's good. So we wanted to cover 2 expansion requests a little bit more in detail. The first is the swim team. We've already discussed the quick history of the OTAC. We have a current rental partner from it's a Provo swim team. We discussed it a little bit in our last RAC meeting, but we said, you know, we were mostly talking
How long is that contract?
with them
Right, yeah.
short term, month to month, and
Month to month.
and they know we have been very transparent with them that we are looking at all 3 options right now: new parent team, our own team, or continuing with them. So they're not going to be cut off guard.
So they're looking maybe-
What's that?
Have parents approach you regarding a new parent team?
No one wants to. I mean,
No one wants
yeah.
to-
it's a lot of work, and the last one burnt out and they imploded last second. So they might not be super excited on that option right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cause I'm wondering, cause Skip's got a good friend that gets sweating OTAC. He was one that called me and, you know, we met.
Yeah.
So he might, but I don't know if he's, I'll ask him.
So there are those 3 options: in-house rental, or a new, if we're interested in looking at a new parent organization. So some of the significant costs that come with that, you'd be looking at a full-time head coach that would have a total compensation value of $90,000. It's an expensive position,
That's with benefits or?
with benefits.
So just to pause on that.
Yeah.
With the swim team, I guess I don't know that much about swim. I really don't. It's not my
Don't feel
interest.
so bad.
I don't feel bad about it. I just don't. And so I'm just curious. So do they do that? Is that how these swim organizations, they have one coach that kind of does the whole thing? Is that
And then
how
they'll
it
have the
works?
variable hour coaches. And so one coach, the head coach, the head of the program, they're setting the workouts, they're setting the direction of the team. They're likely coaching the most advanced groups. They're building the curriculum, the workouts for the younger groups. They focus a lot on the continuum of how do we get someone from 4 years to 18 years old, and how do we safely, appropriately help them graduate through our program.
Okay.
Currently, Lehigh and American Fork are both city-run swim teams with very similar to the model that we're discussing today. And the budget numbers are based on a lot of what we've learned from them. So you would have, again, a head coach, you'd have your variable hour year-round coaches, you would have an increase of variable hour coaches for like our summer and our rec teams. You'd have supplies, you'd have expenses to cover coaches traveling to travel meets or, you know, up and down to St. George and Salt Lake and all that. And then of course there's the cost of, we would no longer be receiving rental revenue. We get $25,000 a year maybe from rental revenue right now, and that would go away because we'd be the ones using it. On the other hand, though, there's a number of significant revenue line items that come in. And so, you know, if you ran dues, we said for our first year, we probably budgeted at 125. We could go up easily to 175 in the current amount of water that we've offered these other teams. No expansion, no kicking out swim lessons or water aerobics, but just based on the age groups and how you split them up, about 175 in our year-round team. And then you look at the way that these organizations work. Every time a kid signs up, you have an admin fee or you have an annual fundraising fee. You run additional like clinics and private coaching, and you have home meets and swim meets that make additional revenue. And so as we've started to budget that out, we'd be looking at about a net $30,000 annual profit that we'd make from a swim team operation. We would control the pool schedule, which would be really nice. We've talked a little bit about some of the tricky personnel of having a full-time coach in an otherwise administrative team. It's a different position, and he or she would.
But it's really the answer to? Who's there?
Yeah, and how do you promote? What's exciting about our department is you can grow from this position to that. You can stay with us. This coach position, you're just a coach forever. That's what you do. And what if you're a great person and you're a really good city employee, but you're not producing great swimmers, or vice versa? You get results, but at what cost? It's a different element that is unique. We would, if we maintain the team, I think we provide stability that would not be found with other parent organizations. We don't have kids in the program that pull us and keep this to the program. That's a really good thing. But also, like, how do you involve parents? And we've seen it at American Fork and Lehigh that you can involve the parents in meaningful ways, but maybe not the most meaningful ways. It's very different. But as we've sort of looked at that, we feel that there is an opportunity to at least put this budget forward and finalize these numbers, and then get that information to the UV Rays organization, which is the rental group, to that parent group that we've talked to the RAC, and then to the staff. And ultimately, there's no vote. We're not going to ask the parents and have them vote. It's our charge to do what we think is best for the city of Orem. But I think we want to get a lot of input, because we don't want to enter into it unless we are very confident that this is the best for the kids, for the residents of Orem, for the long term. So, thoughts, discussion.
Well, and that it will be successful.
Yeah.
Without parental interest,
It's not.
it's going to die on a vine. So, are you ready?
Sure.
It just means there's a lot more phone calls to council members when someone's not happy or satisfied with something. Or that happens anyway. All the time. That's going to happen regardless.
Goes with the territory.
Yeah.
But it's unique because for once, Debbie, how often do we say it's like, it's not about the wins and losses? But this would be a little different. This one would have some element of it's a little bit about the wins and
I
losses.
think you're making a mistake too. And that huge undertaking. We control it. I think that's
Kind of statement.
just that we're warm and, we can run a program, and we're gonna help. Because our program is gonna feed into the high schools,
The rental groups.
the rental group. So
Slapping our logo and our name
So
on
you're
those
saying
swim
that some of
caps.
These club teams are renting right now.
One team, the Provo
UV
UV Rays.
Okay.
Utah Valley.
we basically dissolve the win to them.
Some of their swimmers went up to American
You said
Fork.
that earlier, that all the good swimmers and all the good coaches went down to Provo.
And American Fork. American Fork is also a very talented team.
But that's run by the city too.
Yep, American Fork is run by the city. And
And you're saying that Provo is also run by the city?
nope, it's a private
That's a
group.
private-
So they're also renting in Provo. They rent from the Provo Rec Center and BYU.
And they used to rent from
Well,
Spanish Fork in the summers,
yeah.
but they
But just
shuttered that
because
pool.
It's that large that they need all of that space.
And they're pulling bodies from,
They are the
Correct.
Southern Counties USA swim team.
So are we trying to say we're gonna pull from Orem, or we're gonna pull other people who could join too out of?
I mean, you've got American Fork and Provo that have established swim teams. We wouldn't say no to a kid from Vineyard or Linden, but with two strong programs on both sides of us, likely we would be focused on our residents.
And do we have swimmers?
Yes, our current summer swim team has 300 athletes. Our year-round rec swim team right now has 90 athletes. We have a massive learn to swim and pre-comp swim program with nowhere to send them right now. We might not win right now because our 16 and 17-year-olds did go to UV Rays, and I can't imagine being a parent of a high school athlete that would go Orem to Provo to New Orem in the course of their high school career. They're probably just going to finish out
So
there.
it's gonna take some time to.
On the to get competitive, yes. We'll have the numbers, but they're going to be a lot of 12, 13, 14-year-old swimmers, not a lot of 17, 18-year-olds.
it'll be a cute swim team for a little bit.
Yeah, we'll get some good
Yeah,
drafts.
yeah.
We'll get some good draft picks.
But we do have a good rec league already happening that's robust and full. and
Successful.
And those guys
that would
could go
push direct
into
to
this
the
program.
state.
So you have a stepping.
Correct.
Yeah,
It kind of rounds out the swim program in general, because right now we take care of them in their youngest and learning skills developing. And then the rec team is a good introduction to what a club might look like. But then after that, it's kind of like, good luck.
Good luck. We'll see you later.
Thanks for being here. And we don't see any sort of like longevity with them through age 13, 14.
So you're saying, I'm just reiterating.
Yeah.
the Serious swimmers are in the club teams, and then just say, I want to have a good time, go swim at the high schools.
I think that is a fair representation. Of course, there are exceptions. And a lot of them, their senior year, they'll come back because they want to be a captain. They're going to go set their state records, but like club soccer, high school soccer is not club soccer. Club soccer reigns supreme, and swimming is definitely like that. Versus basketball, high school basketball is where it's at. High school football is where it's at. But soccer, swim, a couple of these other sports, it's definitely club first in Utah.
So your time frame?
We have to have expansion requests turned in a week from today. And we are going to turn this in, the city.
Mhm.
We'll review it in a subcommittee, and in tandem, we'll reach out with, pending that y'all are the first conversation. We'll now reach out to the parent group. We'll reach out to the Rays. We'll sit down with them and discuss. And again, we'll make sure it's in the long-term interest.
We're going to take their full time.
Starting in August, yes. So they'll have 6 months of runway to plan and offload and be prepared. It's not like, hey, Thursday you're out,
Right.
like OTEC did to us.
Well, but I don't imagine that, well, it's like you said, it's a building, it's building. It's not like those that have already left OTAC, gone down to the Rays, down to Provo are gonna say, oh, hey, look what the city of Orm's doing.
But a lot of the
Rays
8 to
back
14-year-olds would, we're talking, you got a junior in high school, you treat that a little bit differently than if you got a 7th grader. It's like, no, we can move down there and we'll be there for 5 years. Also, we live 2 minutes from the Orem Fitness Center. We live 15 minutes from
Well,
Provo.
and the
Sick of that
facilities here
drive.
are also
Unique.
unique and better.
Yes.
In many respects, and provide more opportunity, actually, I think.
We
Is
have
that true?
we have twice the water here that they do at Provo or BYU.
And long courses is the only one. they
But
don't have.
you're not thinking when you meet with them, was it the Rays?
Yeah.
That you'd say, hey, come to Orem? And we pay that guy? No.
Yeah, I'm of that kind of that cloth that they're their own group. They wouldn't work for Orem. They would rent from Orem. I think that's all they're interested in. And so we would say,
We wouldn't try to absorb them and say, come to Orem
no,
and you can coach.
I don't think they're interested in that. No. We would be
But if
hiring.
we take their full time, they're going to be struggling.
I think they'll probably have to make some organizational decisions to say, hey, we have 300 swimmers right now. We have to max out at
Then those guys
175.
should come to Orem.
Well, like American Fork is full, they're not taking anymore.
Correct.
We have
They-
the same boat. We
Yeah,
have
American
to
Fork
take.
turned away 70 competitive
Yeah,
swimmers
but
last
then,
season.
I mean, it just-
We'll fill the kids. We might not win in year 1, but we'll fill the kids.
Just so you have a
There's a
program that's
need.
moving forward, and there's a need.
Well, that's actually, in my mind, that's
That's kind of
the
the focus.
critical, that's really the key question.
Yeah.
It says there's quite a few.
If the need's not being met.
We met with Levi.
And we have the tools
and we
to
have the
do it.
tools To meet those needs, and if it can be actually, running the flag, that's just a huge plus.
I think we have a lot of tools that a parent group wouldn't have too, in terms of, we already have HR. We have a whole human resources department because of the business of the city. And so when we hire a coach, we can leverage no additional cost to the HR, but we have an HR and we have a department administrator who is very, very good at her job. And so we leverage the benefit of having a Marissa and a facility manager to take care of so much so our coach can coach. And we don't have to have, a part-time volunteer administrator or something like that. A lot of those services, the parents get to have their kids swim and the coaches get to coach and the kids get to swim. And we, as administrators of recreation, can take care of a lot of the rest. We'll still involve the parents, but involve them in, I would say, more fun ways or more real ways and less, hey, I mean, you've been on Orem Youth Baseball, Dave. There's a lot of menial work. Like, this is the weirdest hobby ever that I'm sitting here running volunteer tax, or you're doing volunteer sheets and background checks. We take care of a lot of that so that coaches can coach and parents can parent and swimmers can swim.
Do you think we can find a decent coach for that?
We looked and we found 3
Like to make
full-time coaches in Utah in the last year, and this is $5,000 above that.
So young, like, or
So it's
young up and
competitive.
coming coaches, or
Yeah.
you need a seasoned coach?
Yes, I think you need a full-time too. We couldn't do this. Like, why don't we just hire 3 part-time coaches? And, what we heard from the other city-run teams was you need a full-time coach if you're going to attract people, because they want to know that someone's going to be around for their kid for 5 years.
So the cost of setup right now, this program is. So question, but what's it cost?
Net positive $30,000 a year.
To start, I mean, net positive?
Yes, at 125 swimmers. Yep. Now, again, maybe we get 80, and so we are a little bit tighter, but then we can scale the costs. And knowing that we already have 150 year-round rec swimmers, 300 summer
We're
swimmers.
February, so you think that's doable by August?
If we get this approved, the head coach would be hired July 1. We would start the paperwork in May,
And
ahead of
who
September.
has to approve it? The
Uh,
committee?
The budget subcommittee and then the city council.
Also, August might be the best time to start because that pushes all of your
I can
summer
sell
swim
that.
at the biggest chunk.
Yeah. We feel good about it from a business perspective. Again, there's some, we still want to talk to these parents, and we don't want them to feel like we, by flight of night ended OTAC and then did it our own because we want to make the money or something like that. But
Well, not only that, parents are on board. You talk to the parents and they like the idea, and you feel like there's support there. The council loves that too, because then once that budget item comes up to the council, you say, hey, we've already been out in the community, we've talked to them, here's the input that we're getting, it's very positive, and feel very strong about this.
or if it is negative, here were the 3 main concerns.
Right?
We feel good about it
How
because X, Y, and Z. Yeah.
we address it.
Well, good. The last one, we've done budget, we've done swim team, is the co-sponsored and field rentals. This is a major structural budget change in that, we used to have punch passes and now we have memberships to the pool. As we look at our co-sponsored, we used to have co-sponsored organizations, and everything that organization did was treated in the same umbrella. Debbie here from sports is going to talk a little bit about what our process was and how what we've done since we met with the RAC in January, and where we've been and what we're doing.
Well, you can kind of flip through the slides here, but what we did was we just reached out to each of them and asked them to tell us how many participants you have, how many field hours you used, for those practices, for those games, were they competitive games, were they scrimmage, whatever, and asked for their financials. And then we kind of sifted through the data. Some gave us pretty detailed, most gave us, some we had to go looking through websites and scrubbing schedules to find information, but we put together kind of what we feel like, based on our information, some numbers, like Orem Youth Soccer, which they now are called Utah Valley United. They actually have 3 components. They have a rec level, true rec level, a district level, which is competitive, but maybe not. They're traveling around Utah County, maybe even into Salt Lake a little bit. Then there's a state level that they go to Las Vegas for tournaments. They might go out to California, whatever, but a significantly more competitive group. And those were the numbers they gave us. We just kind of went through, figured out, okay, with that schedule, they use 85 hours a week at Lakeside, of which 40 were full size, 45 mid to small size fields. And then we don't know what they're using for training, for camps, clinics, practices. Those were just games that we were able to determine from their schedules. So we're saying going forward, we were just, based on those numbers that we took, they don't need 5 nights a week and all day Saturday. We can fit their 85 games into a couple weeknights if they're using all 8 fields and Saturdays 6 fields. Based on that schedule, that would be 88 hours on Saturdays and 84 on weeknights, which is really giving them 200% of what they need based on what we were able to determine.
But it's still a little bit less than they've had in the past. And so it's finding this
Definitely
middle
less.
ground of give them the flexibility, give them the ability to say, hey, we got rained out, or we have to make this last minute
Or you
switch.
missed this week and, you know, our numbers were a little off or whatever. This gives us a really good buffer for all of that.
But also it opens up 3 nights a week and part of the complex on Saturdays to go to one of the several other groups that constantly ask us for time that up to this point we've said we don't have it or we don't know if we have it.
Skip says he's gonna try to join his scout.
Oh, okay, perfect.
So then we went through our Orem baseball group and they have, based on their schedules again, about 800 youth. And they have kind of a combined rec comp schedule. It's not really competition, but they have,
Upper and lower skill.
Upper and lower levels. And then they also run what they call Monday Night Lights, which on Mondays, 36 teams, and Monday Night Lights is kind of some of the travel teams in the area, an opportunity for them to play. So a little bit more competitive. They don't sign up through Orem baseball and they're not formed teams or teams that are formed themselves. You know, you're coaching a group of kids or Dave's coaching a group of kids, but you bring them here on Mondays to play in the league.
So are you saying that they are operating what would be considered club teams?
They're not necessarily operating, but they're providing a league for them.
So they basically copied the Spanish Fork League.
There's multiple
Because the
leagues that get these travel
Yeah,
teams.
the Orem teams would got to go to Spanish Fork, so they created Monday Night Lights, so as many Orem teams as they can have in Orem in the different age groups, they
And then
stay in Orem,
other
and then these guys come to
Organizations
Orem,
come too.
so they don't have to travel.
But from their schedules, we determined they had 875 rec games approximately, and then 216 for the Monday Night Lights. And then about 550 hours of prep field space. That's starting in March for tryouts and practices before their season starts in April. Once their season starts, they don't get a lot of practice time on the actual field. But kind of our best guess there.
That's they're playing games.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they don't practice at all during the thing because the fields are already prepped. It's a little game, so
And again, you might get a couple teams that show up a couple hours early, but that's not what we're interested in regulating. Teams are doing that, then I think that's all right.
Welcome, Scott.
Welcome. I apologize. My flight was not only delayed, but then delayed again. So I apologize it's so late.
Not your fault. You got nothing to apologize for. Let us know. Debbie's speaking. Let us know if you can hear her away from the mic, if that works for you.
Okay.
The other group, one of our other co-sponsored groups is Celtic Soccer. This is a little different from Utah Valley Soccer, and then they already have competitive and higher level competitive. They have 173 kids. That's mostly what they're talking about, which is little kids like 5, 6, 7-year-olds probably before they get to UA and whatever. And competitive. They use, based on, again, our best guess on this, 34 hours and picking that up, 54 hours of it is for academy, 25 60s for practice, and you can see scrimmage and games, the numbers there. And then we have a tackle football group that's a little bit unique, but they use the baseball fields, the larger baseball fields over there in the fall for their football league. They run 2 nights a week and Saturdays. So we figured about 180 games. They pay $1,200 per field. No, $1,200 total, $600 per field. We're not sure. We've had a real hard time getting information from them. That only includes games. I don't know what the practices. I'm sure kids are over there practicing wherever they can find field space, but those 180 games are not, the hours don't include practices. There's also a cheerleading group that's kind of combined with that. We don't know a lot of those details. From all of our numbers, we've kind of taken all the information and tried to get our best guess of how many hours are available, what they're actually using, what they're paying, and what does that break down as cost per hour. That's kind of our best way to compare because they're such unique groups in the way they use fields. And so, Orem Youth Soccer, they have Lakeside Park, or what I think earlier we referenced them as Utah Valley Soccer, but same group. Lakeside Park, that's 13,000 hours that they have based on their schedules. they're using about 3,600, a little over 3,600.
Pause. Hours available, what constitutes that? The number of,
All the fields, Monday through Friday and all day Saturday.
And
Eight full-size
we
fields.
don't, they
All
have
day?
first dibs.
all day?
If
And
I
there's-
want
yeah.
to do something, I call them and ask if it's available right now.
So they literally have control of the fields essentially in terms of usage.
They might not use all of them, but they have
There's somebody
first
on those
dibs
fields.
and second dibs and third dibs and fourth dibs.
yeah.
Like they just,
Okay,
it,
and I get that.
yeah.
So
That's not an uncommon situation in a lot of areas, so it's
Yeah.
not surprised.
it is unique here, but again, like you said,
So-
it's how it's been for years and years. So.
given that they have those many hours available and how much they use, we can assume that they're spending about $1.50 to $5 per hour per field.
What are they being charged currently?
$7 per kid.
Per
That's
season.
Those numbers per season.
So some of those kids that are being charged $7 for their season, yeah, $20,000 for all of that.
Yeah, it's just amount.
That middle.
Oh, you're
Amount
saying
paid that
about- I'm
first.
sorry, I
Then we
didn't
do,
look at that
then we
on
do.
I-
Yeah.
You skip that column when we were done.
Yeah. So part of that is to understand that a 4-year-old that has 6 45-minute games is charged $7 for the season. And an 18-year-old that has 12 hours of practice per week plus games on the weekends is also charged $7 per season. And so it's a little bit of a one-size-fits-all,
Not a fair
Charge.
comparison for sure.
but they use it very differently.
Right. Let me just ask, these amounts paid, those represent revenues that I'm assuming cover maintenance costs. How close is that coverage? For me, when you're talking
Single-digit percentage coverage.
Well, that's your problem, or that's a problem in my mind. Because what happens, anyway, my past experience has been that when you get these organizations out there and they feel like they own these park sites with the fields that are available on those park sites, they use the heck out of them to the point where they get destroyed, and the maintenance costs are a lot heavier than what the revenues that are coming in. Is the intent or the interest to look at maybe how those maintenance costs can more effectively be offset so that it becomes a more reasonable usage agreement?
It's Valentine's Day weekend because you're speaking my love language. Yeah, no, I think what we found out was the one size fits all of charging each organization that has very different operations, the per kid per season fee. I think when we set that up a few decades ago, that was more common. Most, if not all of sports was 8 games and 8 practices with a volunteer coach. And then the season was over and you switched to the next sport. But sports have changed. And so the way we book and organize fields has, including the maintenance expectations. And I share this as we met with Parks yesterday because they feel the same. And this is not us taking a shot at our Parks team, but they said, we want to get our fields back to where they were 10 years ago. They sort of,
I feel like maintenance has taken a hit because they've just, for whatever, for a variety of reasons, but they recognize a definite lack that needs to be.
and they want to, and we feel like maybe we can give them some tools in terms of budget and scheduling that would help them meet our co-sponsored vision of what a sport field, a ball field in Orem looks like and feels like. And so what we want to do is what we're proposing in the budget is to change away from a per kid per season fee. And we would only do that for co-sponsored recreation programs. If you got a volunteer coach, 8 games, less than 8 practices in a finite few weeks, we're going to charge you as a recreation program. And we're going to do that at a very, very subsidized, discounted rate. Right now, it's between $7 and $11 per kid per season. And I think we can commit that we would meet or reduce that cost in this next budget proposal. We would not, as we look at what fees might increase to get away from that $1 to $5 per field per hour, and we raise that a little bit towards a more sustainable maintenance budget, we would not look to the rec programs to fund that. We would keep them where they are at or better their situation so that we encourage our partners to run more low-cost recreation
And
programs.
to encourage fire participation.
Yes.
That's affordable.
That's what we want: affordable soccer, affordable baseball, affordable football in our city. Now, for the competitive rentals, where you're looking at a lot of training, we're looking at bringing in teams in from other areas. We're looking at paid coaches and training sessions, a structure for development. That is also a good service for the city, but it should be charged differently. And so for those things, here we made notes of potentially that's the Monday Night Lights of baseball. Potentially that's the division and state level soccer teams. We would do a per hour rental that would still be discounted off of market rate. You know, we're not going to charge you like we would an out of town tournament coming in or a net positive summer clinic or camp. We would do it in a way. Now, Monday Night Light Baseball already has this structure. They pay per hour, and it's per hour-ish. You know, they pay more for the first game, and subsequent games are cheaper. But the more hours they use, the more they are charged. The less hours they use, the less they are charged. And we would take what has been successfully done in Monday Night Lights, and we would introduce that concept to our club soccer, to the tackle football, to the division and state soccer, and go from there. Now, that final fee has not yet been decided on, but market rate for a youth field rental is $25 an hour, plus the cost of painting, plus the cost of lights. So that's our market rate, and we would find an appropriate discount for co-sponsored partner field rentals based off of that. And then we would also have a different rate for other long-term nonprofit rentals. And then we would have the full rate for camps and clinics and tournaments, weekend tournaments, everything like that. Those additional monies that we would make would then be turned into a parks maintenance expansion request. So we would say, we're going to take this chunk of money. We're going to look at staff. We're going to look at capital expenses that would greatly introduce or increase the efficiency of our existing park staff. We would look at the quality of the field or the infield through like infield machines and curb cutting machines, automated painting so we can do the line painting, additional overseeding and irrigation improvements. You know, a list that we worked with our parks maintenance team to say, help us put some price tags and some priorities. And that money, because we as a rec department collect the money. We do. We're the ones. But it's not very expensive for us to run a soccer tournament. It's very expensive for the parks maintenance team to run a soccer tournament. So we would collect it, package it, and get it to them. And so we will be putting in this expansion request in concert with the parks maintenance team. So all of that to say, you know, the big question, and you know, Skip, if you're with us, the big question is, what's the bottom line to our partner organizations? And we don't know the exact numbers yet, but we feel that the changes in overall annual price for co-sponsored groups that have heavy recreational use would be negligible. If you're running big recreation programs, you'll pay less for the rec programs, you'll pay a little bit more for your competitive components. We think that will balance out. If you're a co-sponsored group that's running a ton of competitive, you will pay more, but it would still be at a significant discounted rate off of market rate. And with the additional time that we would carve out, we would have a better furlough program so that our fields stay healthy long. We would have more opportunities to get these fields to other organizations, new sports, new soccer clubs that want to start up. And we would be able to introduce that at a fair but closer to market rate price, with, again, all of that money going to our maintenance program.
And so this is the first initial presentation.
We
Groups haven't heard any of this information.
We met in January with the RAC. We've had some back and forth in principle with the groups, but we have not talked price or even the, hey, going to per kid for these programs and per hour for these. We met with Dave Spencer an hour ago to give him the preview, and now y'all. Yeah. Yeah.
So are you talking also with,
in theory, we would want, if we own the fields, we would want to paint them and maintain them and put goals on them. And so since we maintain them, if there's a fee to be charged, it's charged to us. We want to get out of the business of co-sponsored groups charging each other for fields. That feels weird.
That's great service. You could. We have some other.
And then we can get those fields that are paid for by the residents to more residents at our discretion, at the council's discretion, at the city's discretion, not at individual sports discretion. It might be. It might be, yeah.
Well, it would,
I'm just saying, I agree 100%.
the groups themselves, they're up to the way they they're working. I got you.
And we would want to roll this out with plenty of runway. We're not looking to surprise our co-sponsored group or our existing rentals. We want to do this in February so that when we roll into the new season in September, they'll have a chance to review budgets. They'll have a chance to talk to their partners and look at their price fees and come back to us and say, we're close on this. Can you give us, can we take an extra year on this part of the component? I think we're going to be partners with it, but right now they have all of the schedule and power and knowledge, and we don't. And this is to say we can't be good stewards of the fields and these resources without some of that knowledge and control.
It's going to be next year, but it would be
on price changes. Yes. Now for soccer, we might say, hey, Lakeside, you don't get 13,800 hours. You get an appropriate amount of hours. Pick your nights. Tell us what you want. So there might be some scheduling changes that will be imminent. Those don't really affect baseball because we don't manage multiple sports there. And, Celtics, they do have their current annual contract through August. So we won't touch that one either. But at Lakeside, I think there is room to say, and there is demand immediately to say, hey, pick your nights at Lakeside, have first dibs, but we do get second dibs. So pricing, no. Scheduling control, maybe sooner.
I've asked to be in all the co-sponsored meetings with the group, so. And I can be there Wednesday.
Great.
I've got Alpine School District meeting at noon to 1.
Oh yeah, you and I have a whole afternoon together. Skip, I know you jumped on a second ago. Any thoughts, questions, concerns? I know you've got great insight to Orem Youth Baseball, and would love to hear, again, pros or cons or anything you've thought as you sort of look over this.
No, I think, because I'm on my phone and I'm driving, I can't look at the numbers, but just listening to the conversation, and I could hear you really well, Bryce. I heard Debbie pretty good. If that was Dave just recently talking, I couldn't hear him very well, but a couple of takeaways, at least that I felt. Number one, I think this is a very positive direction to go. I was on the youth football board for a long time and been on the OIB board forever and still there. And I noticed a couple of things. I noticed that funding went down this last year, or at least the way it was spread around, which made field prep tougher for baseball. But we recognize very clearly a difference between a co-sponsored program like Orem Youth Baseball versus a Monday Night Lights program. And those programs should be charged more because of the nature of them. For example, Orem Youth Baseball is probably 90+% Orem Kids, and Monday Night Lights is probably 40% or 45% Orem Kids. And although Monday Night Lights are not paid coaches, the kids that are involved in club baseball pay a heck of a lot more because they have traveling budgets and tournament budgets and uniform budgets and all that kind of stuff that's way more expensive than the Orem Youth Baseball program is run. So when I think of the structure you're describing, I think it makes so much sense, because then either that begins at the RAC, or it begins with the council meeting, or or Bryce in your office, you can take a program and say, okay, what are the details of your program? How are you structured? And then apply a framework that you're talking about building now. Apply that framework to the program that makes it fair, that makes it fairly treated in relationship to other programs, and like you said earlier, gives the city control and stewardship of the fields that they have, how well they're taken care of. One of the things that we've really appreciated in Orem Youth Baseball is when it comes time for All-Stars at the end of the season and we play in an All-Star tournament, sometimes we get to host that tournament. So you have ball players and their families coming predominantly from Salt Lake County and counties north, Farmington, Centerville, all the way up to Cache Valley. And without doubt, they come down and the parents will come and say, this is the nicest complex we've played in all year. And it feels good to say it's a public-private effort, because obviously funds from the city maintain it, and we try to donate funds in to help grow as well from OIB. So those kinds of things bring and attract people to Orem because of the community, not because of the sport. So I really appreciate the direction you're headed, and at least the parts of the framework you laid out, because it makes complete sense.
Appreciate that, Skip. If you had to share concerns, you've been on these boards, and it is, we're a municipality raising the prices. Some of these organizations might feel like, we feel like we're giving them a 60% discount off a market rate, but they're going to say that they're experiencing a 400% increase in field costs. And both of us are correct. You've been in those parent meetings, are we off base here, or is there a way to make this more palatable? We feel strongly that this is a direction that we ought to and should take. It's our job as the city to take, but we want to do it in a way that's successful long-term. Do you see any major concerns or things that you're like, Bryce, this one seems maybe not worth it, let that one go, or, any feedback like that might be, critical of the direction we're setting out here that you feel like maybe we could improve?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, I'd like to reserve the right to make a more informed, a more intelligent response after getting a chance to see the numbers. And again, I apologize, I couldn't make my work schedule better. By the way, Bryce, thank you so much, you and Marissa, for sending out the next 2 months in advance, because then I can schedule my work around it and not travel on those days. And that helps me a ton anyway. But just a general comment, and that is, I'll give you a couple of examples. It's tough in a co-sponsored program, and I'll use OI baseball as an example. It's tough in that environment to see raises come around, because we already what we call scholarship kids that have, you've got a divorced mom that's got 2 boys in OIB. And so we end up doing some scholarships, and the only way we pay for that, because we still have to cover, cost of participation and cost of uniform and cost of umpires, things like that. So, but we're fortunate in that we can run the Snack Shack, that we can generate some money from. The Snack Shack is it's a non-money maker, year after year, but it generates enough proceeds that we can help cover scholarship to kids that don't have the funding, that can't afford, and we don't want any kid to not play. My worry is as fees go up, that number of scholarship kids is going to go up, and that, by the way, increases a little bit every year in terms of hardship cases, things like that. So I think it would be worth our time to dig into the numbers a little bit more, see what it looks like, and get some good feedback on that, so that you've got a really extensive and detailed evaluation with which to take to, the city council or the budget committee or whatever the case may be. I think that the private groups certainly have the ability to absorb more of that than the co-sponsored groups. But again, that's just a kind of a rough opinion. and would love to dig into the numbers, even if I came down later this week and went through them with you, or sometime next week. But having sat on the baseball board for a long time, the youth football board for quite a few years, and even on, I've got 2 kids that went through high school and youth programs in lacrosse for a long time before it got sanctioned by the high schools. There are just so many programs screaming for field time, and Alpine School District is, excuse my French, I hope this isn't recorded, they're an ass to deal with. And so anything we can do that facilitates that, but at the same time, they've got to be able to carry their weight. So I think it's moving in the right direction. There are going to be some uncomfortable talks for sure. Not everybody's going to be excited about it. I think another thing that comes into play is some comparisons. So what are soccer field costs in Spanish Fork? I'll use that as an example because they get, sports programs. What is like our Monday Night Lights? How does that compete with the Payson and Spanish Fork leagues that Matt Marziel runs? Those kinds of things would give us also some competitive vantage points that help drive some good decisions as well.
Well, Skip, for an answer of not looking at the slides and speaking while you're traveling through an airport, I think that's great insight. If you would like to, I'd be glad to. You and I can find some time on your schedule to come on down and look through this. And really, even the next step is to sit down with Orem Youth Baseball, Orem Youth Soccer, and Celtic Soccer and go through this in depth with them. We're not here to catch them off guard, and we don't want them to hear about it the first time in the city council meeting or something like that. We want to treat them like partners, and hopefully what we have done will offset some of those concerns. We think we have something that makes the rec co-sponsored pricing even better, as long as we can offset that with the competitive and expanded use of the field. So before we wrap, that's the end of our agenda. We're 15 minutes over. Is there any other final comments or anything before we close today?
Really quickly, Bryce.
Oh, please, yeah, go ahead.
Real quickly, I'll reach out to you tomorrow morning, shoot you an email. Let's compare schedules, and I'll come in at the earliest time we can make our schedules work. So
that sounds great. And again, if you want to come just you, or if you feel like there's people from football and baseball that would benefit, we'd be glad to meet and go from there.
Okay. I'd love to have Dave there. Dave has been a huge proponent of all of the youth programs in the city for the whole time he's been on the council. So if there's anyone else, let me give that some thought, and then let's put our schedules together and make a time work.
That sounds great. I like that.
Okay. Super.
Well, good. Well, y'all, thank you again for your time today. Thanks for being here, and we'll see y'all, if not sooner, we'll see y'all next month.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks again,